Well, look who's here at this RG. I'm seeing folks I've longed to see. Hello, M's. Hello, everybody. Hello, friends. Well, how in the world have you been all year? I missed you so, and I long to see you here. Hello, friends. Oh, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Ring Gathering in 1986, the Seattle Western Washington Regional Gathering. Glad you're here. Glad I'm here, too. In addition to ripping off Garrison Keillor tonight, we're going to be plagiarizing Tom Lehrer, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, and John Denver. We're going to be making fun of some of our elected officials and learning a lot about this organization we call Mensa, its history, its foibles, its people. Mensa 101 is the name of the course, and I hope you've all matriculated. If not, see me after class. Brought to you, as Garrison Keillor might say, by those powder puff muffins. Heavens, they're silly and expeditious. Hello, friends. Oh, hello, friends. We're off to a start. Welcome to the Ring Gathering. Let me ask, how many people are attending your very first regional gathering this weekend? Your first RG? Quite a few. Like it? What you expected? Great. Anybody visiting Seattle for the first time? That many. Where are you from?
Florida.
Florida? New York City, I see one. I know where you're from, Howard. My good friend Howard from New York City. Anybody both attending your first regional gathering and your first time in Seattle? Okay. Your first RG, Seafair Week. We're having the Ring at the Seattle Opera. And we're having an RG here in Seattle, and it's your first visit. That's a little bit like the first time you ever ride a horse, choosing a horse that's never been ridden. Now, I see the Seattleites saying he's going to make rain jokes, he's going to make Seattle jokes, and I have a few. But I'm not going to use them. It's true that we rust instead of tan, but hey, navel jelly is cheaper than cocoa butter. What can I say? Besides, I'm not here to talk about Seattle. I'm here to tell you new people about Mensa, because you really don't understand the group before you come into it. It's sort of an unknown. And I was no different. I expected to see bespectacled men with little goatees and mousy women with tight little buns in their hair. Okay, now I know where we can go with the evening. I expected to be challenged on Chaucer and Shakespeare, maybe get into a knockdown, drag-out argument on whether or not you can actually trisect an angle. But I soon found out that Mensans are not solely or even primarily interested in intellectual intercourse. 2, 3. Gotta let it sink in. We're a lot like other people, really. The men lust after the women, the women lust after chocolate. And I'm not just picking on the women. The men are no better. The men in Mensa can't keep their mouths shut. You usually think of the women as being the chatty ones, but you married guys, you and your wife are getting ready to go out to a party. She turns to you and says, "Darling, what sort of attire should I wear tonight?" Now, how many of you guys can resist a line like that? How many of you divorced guys didn't? Now, it's not to say that it's not a great honor to join Mensa. I was so proud when I first got in. I stopped in at the store and told the man behind the counter, "I want Beowulf in the original Middle English. Marcus Aurelius, original language okay there too. And a calculator with full logarithmic function." Got that full log function. The man turned to me and said, "You must be in Mensa." I asked, "How did you know?" He said, "Well, for one thing, this is a butcher shop." It's unfair. It's not fair because we in Mensa are blessed, or maybe I should say cursed, with what I call the wide mesh mind. We're thinking weighty thoughts. We're solving world-class problems. Go up in the hospitality suite and talk if you don't believe me. It's heavy. But I mean, the little stuff tends to get by us sometime. It reminds me a little bit of the first Mensa ever executed, which is not a pretty story. hope it's a funny story, but anyway, he was up on the platform with the judge and the executioner, and when the judge gave the signal to proceed, the executioner pulled the handle and nothing happened. He turned to the judge and said, I don't understand it. This is a relatively simple mechanism. I built it myself. It must be a miracle. And the judge said, if it's a miracle, the condemned man goes free. It's God's will that he not die today. The Mensa looked down and said, gentlemen, I think I see the problem with this guy. That's us, folks. That's Mensa. You see, at a gathering like this, hey, there are 50, 60, 80 of us running around being Mensans. We tend to forget that we are only at best 1 out of 50. We're the top 2%. We're at the top. And you know what they say about life at the top, right? Well, in addition to being a little lonely up here, it's a little windy up here, too. I was having a debate in the hospitality suite last night on the existence of God with a Mensan who claimed to be God. Wouldn't have been so bad, but she was taking the against view. Which still wouldn't have been so bad, but I lost the debate. Don't understand that. It's never dull, though, in Mensa. You've really never lived until you've had the opportunity to debate gun control with a paranoid schizophrenic with an IQ of 170 and a bulge under his jacket. That's living on the edge. But you people who indicated this is your first time, you youngsters in Mensa, you're probably wondering about the history of Mensans. Now, I say history of Mensans rather than history of Mensa because Mensa, the organization, has only been around about 40 years. We're a relatively young group. But unorganized, as we usually are, Mensans have been around, well, at least since the first Crow Mensan got chewed up by his mother for drawing on the cave walls. B.F. Goodrich, the famous tire inventor, not the one with the blimp, the one in his mother's kitchen, I figure had to have been a Mensan, even if he didn't belong to Mensa. Now picture it, there he was in his mother's kitchen, his scientific curiosity just itching to find out if rubber burning on his mother's cook stove smelled the same as it did burning out in his father's trash fire. Now, history doesn't record the olfactory results of this, nor does it record what he said to his mom when she walked into the kitchen with that big wooden spoon to find out what the stink was about, but we do remember from that day vulcanized rubber, which has always made me think of what Mr. Spock probably used to prevent little Spocks. Careful, I'm not unarmed. You asked for it. I warned you, I have a chicken. This is Boyfoot Chicken. I take him to these gatherings, he enjoys himself. Yeah. We've been creative in our own way. It was a Mensan in government who came up with that most logical of all bureaucratic functions, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. Isn't that a logical grouping? They go together so nicely, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. Well, they do when you stop to think about it, especially for the government. If you can have a smoking gun, why not a drinking gun? After all. It was a Mensan mind who first discovered that you can repair small scratches in fine wooden furniture with mayonnaise. Now, some of you have done it, I'm sure. You get a scratch in your piano leg, put a little mayonnaise on it, it can fix it, right? But picture the mind that when your furniture is broken, goes to the kitchen. I prefer to think of the early failures, the initial trial and error. Dijon mustard? Worcestershire sauce, maybe, a little runny. Tartar sauce? Getting closer. The Mensan mind. It was a Mensan in TV, a network television executive who first gave us primal yawn therapy, followed closely by aerobic napping, but he later redeemed himself by inaugurating network TV's first frequent watchers program. Does anybody belong to any of those network programs? I'm in NBC and CBS myself. I have refused to join ABC's frequent watchers program because they make you watch Ted Koppel 20% of the time for your bonus points. Is that fair? Maybe it's not funny, but it's... We've been creative. The Mensan mind is creative. We did not invent plastic, mouthwash, or aspirin, but we did invent imitation plastic, garlic-flavored mouthwash and aspirin-flavored candy. We didn't invent the pacemaker, but we were the first ones to market them with lifetime guarantees. And I can't prove it, but I feel certain that it was a Mensan who invented Up Doc. That's right. 2, 3. Anybody here dyslexic? If you're dyslexic, raise your left hand. A lot more of us are than the general populace, and normal dyslexics, of course, do get left and right confused. Mensan dyslexics will take that a step further. Some of you who told your friends you didn't vote for Ronald Reagan because he was too left-wing for you. And then you wondered where all your friends went. You may be Mensan dyslexics. We did invent palindromes, and I do have certain unnamed friends living on the East Coast who are dyslexic, I'm sure, because you think when it's 6 o'clock in the morning, New York time, and the telephone rates are still down, that must mean it's 9 o'clock in Seattle. It's not. It's not. Okay, we've been talking about some humorous things, some frivolous uses of intelligence, but we do have to get serious once in a while and think about the higher calling that we have. We are blessed with higher intellects, and it's up to us to use them in the highest possible form. I'm talking, of course, about revenge. Those golden moments don't happen very often, but when they do, it's so sweet, so soul-satisfying. I remember when I was in the 4th grade, the class bully used to pick on me quite a bit, and being as how he was about twice my size, I didn't stand much of a chance out on the playground. But in the classroom, where we could only throw verbs, adjectives, and what adverbs he knew, I felt I was on a little more equal footing, until he came up with what he felt was the perfect rejoinder. I'd call him, "Gould, you hippo butt," and he'd say, "Not quite, Gilmore." "You banana brain." "Not quite, Gilmore." Anything I would say to him, anything I would call him, "Not quite, Gilmore." And this went on until the day I decided to call him a Homo sapien. With the teacher in the room, I wish I could have seen her face. Her back was turned, but her shoulders shook for a good 5 minutes. That was so sweet. Oh my. Later on in college, I had a roommate. I was a music major and a pretty sensitive kid, and my roommate used to make fun of my piano playing. Something fierce. I can't even tell you what he was saying. But this particular night was even worse because I had a young lady over to the house. I was playing romantic etudes for her. And it went on all evening, me hearing this guy from the other room telling me how bad I was playing. I didn't say anything at the time, but I helped the young lady on with her coat at the end of the evening, walked her to the door, walked back to the piano and played. And walked out. 2 hours later, when I got back home, his voice was hoarse, but still croaking, "Resolve! Resolve!" So sweet. How many of you new Mensans smoke? Do any of you? About 30% of you do. I know it's a bad habit, but I thought I'd bring that up because I was talking to Pete Barbuti and asking him, "Pete, I'm going up against Mensa. I've got to get some funny material. What do you suggest?" And Pete told me, first of all, never drop the names of other comedians. Secondly, never steal other comedians' stuff. Oh. John Cumming, are you here? Or RVC? John, I want to see you after the show. I think I gave you the wrong cigar this afternoon. Delicious. Okay, I can go with the chicken. I don't smoke. Some of you do. I used to. We know the only thing worse than a non-smoker is a reformed smoker, but it's been enough minutes since I've quit now. Yeah. I bear you no grudges. I have no hard feelings. I can be in the same hemisphere with you. In fact, I even wrote a song for you. And it goes something. In fact, I hope it goes a whole lot like this. This is for you. Music loud enough? You fill up my sinus, like a smokestack in Pittsburgh, like a forest fire raging with a choking refrain. When you're gone, you're still with me, in my hair and my clothing. You fill up my sinus, come choke me again. When you smoke a bad cigar in my house or in my car, if you do, you've earned for you your last invite. Emphysema strikes deep into your lungs, it may creep. It starts when your lungs won't expand. Smoke anymore, emphysema can get out of hand. You better stop! And so would I. Not too hardy on that, because I do have a confession to make. That last tune was not an original. It's true, it was made popular in the late 60s by Bruce Springsteen's older brother, Buffalo Springsteen. Bring the chicken out. New Mensans, beware. We are a low-profile group. Not many people know about us. But at a gathering such as this one, the press will sometimes zero in on us. Why? Well, I think it's obvious. They want to show the world what really good, neat people we are. What with-it-together intellectual... You've seen interviews, huh? You're right, they want to make us look like idiots. And we help them. However, there are only a few questions that they ever ask. And you need to know this. If you ever find the microphone under your nose, the lens in front of your face, here's how you may want to handle it. Hello, Seattle. Hello, Mensa. Steve Poolcue here at the beautiful Mayflower Park in downtown Seattle, where the nation's elite, the intellectual, the top 2%. Yes, I'm talking about Mensa Society is meeting for a weekend of fun, frivolity, games, speakers, programs, and, well, let's let one of them tell us all about it. Your name, sir? Daniel Gilmore. Thank you, Mr. Gilman. Tell me, isn't Mensa an elitist group? Get this one a lot. What does elitist mean? Mr. Gilfarb, what do you generally talk about at a Mensa meeting? Oh, just what you'd expect. We generally talk about the Mensans that didn't show up that night. Sometimes we elect them to office. Well, tell me, sir, do these geniuses have any sense of humor? Let me get back to you on that one. Mr. Gilroy, I see here in your literature that Mensa has no aims, goals, or purposes, but with a together intellectual group such as this one, you've all passed the test, you must have some underlying goals. Now, what are they? Now, when a reporter gets this one in his teeth, it's practically impossible to dissuade him from what is our purpose. I mean, how do you explain intellectual camaraderie to a news reporter? TV yet? I generally answer that one something like this. Well, Steve Poolcue, we're actually here plotting to overthrow what we refer to as the lower 98. Take over the world. One final question, Mr. Gilman. If you're so smart, why ain't you rich? Back to you, Don. If you're so smart, why ain't you rich? Back to you, Don. Friends, they'll end the interview every time this way, and they'll whip the microphone right back so it looks like they're not trying to embarrass you. This is known in journalistic circles as the Emperor's New Ethics. It's an embarrassing question, there's no doubt about that. The problem is it's far from unanswerable. The awful truth is some of us are rich. You new people, if you find yourself in this situation, please, before it's too late, send your excess wealth to Post Office Box 688. When I have absorbed it, I will drop out of Mensa and save the group further shame and embarrassment. It's up to us veterans to help you new people along. You other old-timers, keep your seats. This one's on me. Oh, reporters do ask some foolish questions sometimes. But let's not forget, we invented the foolish question. There's going to be a slight test now because we're going to sing about foolish questions. We're all going to do it, and I'll explain as we go along. This is a song that all of Mensa can do called Foolish Questions. Now this portion of the song is called the vamp. In case you are wondering, you non-musical people, that doesn't have anything to do with Sexy Rosemary or Buxom Barbara Wyatt. It's just a part of the song. It's just a part of the song where I explain to you what's going on. I can play this simple little thing, that's why I thought of you, honey, and tell you about the song Foolish Questions. I'm going to play a little bit and I'm going to leave the space for a question. When the question comes around on the piano, we're all Mensas, we all know the question. Ask the question. Let's try it. Well, you all know the foolish questions, and you've often wondered why a person can ask a foolish question and then expect a sensible reply. Like when you take your girl some candy, just as sweet as you can be. Well, the first thing she'll do is wrinkle her nose up at you and ask, "Is this for me?" Right! Such a foolish question. You might as well reply, "No, I got this candy for your mom or dad. It's for some other guy. I just wanted to show it to you, and now I'm going to take it away." Well, now, wasn't that a foolish question? You hear them every day. That wasn't so hard. Getting the hang of it? Ready for verse 2? It may be even harder. Let's find out. Verse 2. And then there's that weird kind of guy who's always hanging around your place. And he stands there watching from the bathroom door as you lather up your face. And as you give your razor that preliminary wave, this guy cocks his head like a dog and asks you, "Are you going to say?" Such a foolish question. Your answer, of course, is nope. No, I'm not prepared for shaving. I just love the taste of soap. You know, I have quite a bit of fun with the brush and the cream painting up my face this way. Well, now, wasn't that a foolish question? You hear them every day. Now, this portion of the song is called the relative minor. This doesn't have anything to do with Buxom Barbara's younger sister. Just the part of the song where it gets sad. Still funny, I hope, but sad. And then there's that old acquaintance who sees you walking slowly by, and he asks, "How come you look so sad, and why are you wearing that suit and tie?" Well, you explain you're returning from the funeral of your dear old Uncle Ned. And he looks at you, and his jaw drops down, and he asks, "Is he dead?" Such a foolish question. So you stand up a little straighter and say, "No, Ned decided to have his funeral today and die a little later. He was always so original. You know, I think he would have wanted it that way." Well, now, wasn't that a foolish question? And you hear him every day. Or suppose the elevator person, he should forget to close the doors. And you should step in and tumble down, maybe about 47 floors. And after you hit the bottom, and you're lying there inert, some fool stick his head down the shaft and holler, Such a foolish question. Your dying breath is no. I was just in such a hurry, and that elevator's so slow. I usually save quite a bit of time coming down the shaft this way. Now, what's that? You hear them every day. Getting the hang of it? We having fun on this? That's too bad. This is the last verse. Although it's not all that bad. I wrote this verse especially for Mensa. I hope you'll enjoy it. Oh, what the hell, I like it. Let's see what happens. Well, I was in the hospitality suite last night, about ready to call it quits, when a beautiful woman walked up to me with a gorgeous pair of eyes. She saw little teddy bears and hug buttons covering me like a rug. Well, she reached out her arms and she asked me, "Do you want a hug?" Yes! Some things you just don't mess around with. Now, wasn't that a foolish question? You hear them every day. And why, after almost 40 years of organization, is Mensa such an unknown group? Why can you go out onto any street corner out there and say Mensa and be met with a resounding, huh? Now, it's not so bad lately. Reader's Digest has come through for us every couple of years, so my grandmother knows about us. Playboy helped out last November. All the junior high school boys know about us. But basically, we're not high profile. And it's true, you don't see Mensans out on the street marching for equal rights. You do see us up in the hospitality suite crawling for equilibrium, but that's a different story. No, see me there later. No, the reason I think that Mensa is an unknown entity is we've never had a theme song. Up until possibly this evening. I do have a selection or two for your dissertation and your dissection and whatever. Let us start by going back to the golden days of television. Picture, if you will, that I am playing an 88-string banjo. Come and listen to the story about Cyril Burt. He tried to help England after she were hurt. So he got some foxy ladies and some pretty clever gents, and he started up a group based on high intelligence. Eggheads, that is. Readers, not breeders. And if you believe that one, you'd better stay out of the hospitality suite. But that's been 20 years ago. Beverly Hillbillies is, after all, a television show, a sitcom. And we're a classy group. I think we need a classical theme song. Don't you?
Yeah.
Change of key. Modulation, as you know, is the key to happiness. You can't hurt me. I have a representative from Comedians Hospice waiting for me out in the lobby. What's the name of our distinguished group? On our ties, we never spill our soup. Mensa is our society. We don't think so either. Okay, I've been holding out on you because I do have what I feel is the perfect Mensa theme song, and I offer this with apologies to Tom Lehrer, although very faint and insincere apologies because, hey, he's not here to see me or hear me or sue me. Are you? Tom Lehrer told the Boy Scouts to be prepared. I want to tell Mensa, let's be smart. Let's be smart. Show the world just what it takes. Let's be smart. And make Mensa-sized mistakes. Don't erase that disc you've worked on quite a while. Not unless you never made a backup file. Let's be smart. Bring the world down to its knees. Impress your friends. When you speak computerese, when you play with your computer, it's your very greatest pal. Helps you learn to swear in BASIC, Fortran, COBOL, and Pascal. It helps to be insane before you start. So be smart. Let's be smart. That's the Mensa cri du jour. Let's be smart. But above all, let's be sure. On another Mensan's errors, do not pounce. Don't use words you can define but not pronounce. Let's be smart. If you don't know, take a guess and debate. Use that talent for BS. Just remember when you're arguing with other Mensans who can undoubtedly make up statistics just as well as you. Do not cough. Just be smart. joined a wonderful group. Where else in the world can you walk into a room full of strangers, exchange a dozen different opinions on a dozen different subjects, and walk out no worse strangers, no worse friends than you were before? You can walk into that same room, exchange a dozen delightful hugs, and walk out much better friends as well. Now, we've never had a theme song, and we've never had a motto. But if we had a motto, it would be this: you can fool all of the people some of the time, you can fool some of the people all of the time, but in Mensa you can make a fool out of yourself anytime. I hope you've enjoyed watching me do that tonight. Thanks for coming. Enjoy the RG. Write out your best guess